In calculus, we need to be comfortable with many different equations and functions, including the equations of lines. One form of the equation of a line is given by y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. We're going to take a graph of a line and write the equation in this form, and likewise take a line that's given in this form and determine its graph. So let's first consider this graph of a line. We need to determine the slope, which we can think of as the rise over the run. We are determining the rise, which is how is the y changing, over the run, which is how the x changes. So this can be more easily written as the slope, m, is equal to the change in y over the change in x. In order to find these two differences, we need to determine 2 points on our line. And we can see here that we can easily read off the y-intercept of our line here as the point 0,4. And as it turns out, we can also determine our x-intercept easily as the point 4,0. Now we're going to take our x-intercept, given that it is the rightmost point, and subtract values from the y-intercept, or the leftmost point, when we create this difference quotient. So here we see that in the numerator we have 0 minus 4 as our y change. Remember, the 0 comes from the x-intercept and the 4 comes from the y-intercept. And 4 minus 0 in the denominator for our change in x. So again, remember that the first components are from the same point, in this case the x-intercept, and we subtract components from the other point or the y-intercept. So this gives us minus 4 over 4, which reduces down to minus 1 as our slope. When we read off or determined our points on the graph, we actually found the y-intercept, so I'll just note here that the y-intercept, the b value, is 4. Plugging those into our equation, we get y equals our slope -1 times x plus our intercept b, which is 4, and therefore we can write our equation as y equals minus x plus 4. Now, let's consider sketching the graph of a line. So we're going to sketch a curve, and it's going to be the line y equals 2x minus 4. Again, we need to determine our two values, the slope and the intercept. We see that the slope is the coefficient of our x component. So we have m equals 2, and the y-intercept is our constant piece. In this case, we need to make sure we write down that the b is equal to minus 4. That negative sign needs to be included since our formula has a plus sign in front of the b. So the first thing we need is our graph, or a grid, to put our graph on. And we're going to determine where our intercept is on our graph. So we're going to go down 4 units and draw a little dot. And then we're going to use the slope value and think of it as rise over run to determine a few more points on the graph. So m equals 2 tells us that the y value changes positively in 2 units when the x value just moves 1. So we can think of this 2 as the value 2 over 1. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 1 and draw a point. I'll do it again, and a couple more times I'll draw another point, and I'll draw a last point here. And then the last piece is to connect these in a straight line. And there we have our line y equals 2x minus 4.